All right. In this video, I'll go over the question on Queen Ant, which is question 12. So I will assume that you have familiarized yourself with the behavior of the Queen Ant for this video. So if you haven't already, please read through the description of the Queen Ant on question 12. So yeah, as always, when you're working with like OOP and you're sort of working with inheritance, you should think about like what's different between the class that you're implementing and like the class it's inheriting from. So a big hint is that the queen ant is very similar to the scuba thrower because you can place it on water and it also like throws. But it also has like this added effect of doubling the damage of some ants. So yeah, I guess first hint is that it's a good idea to implement or make the queen ant inherit from the scuba thrower class because again, they're pretty much the same except like one fundamental difference, which is that the queen ant can sort of buff the ants behind her. Okay. So here I actually made a more comprehensive list of like what's different between a scuba thrower and a queen ant. And since we're inheriting everything that like what a scuba thrower is, like including all of its methods, its attributes, like basically all we need to do is consider what's different and account for those changes in our queen ant class. So first, the food cost is different. The name is different. The action is also different. We'll get back to this a little more later. Its reduced health is also different because for a scuba thrower, right, you just reduce its health normally. And if it dies, you just remove it. But in the case of a queen ant, the game could potentially end, right? So if the queen ant loses all of its health, then the game actually just ends. So account for that sort of mechanic by overriding the reduce health method. And lastly, we have like this remove from method, which might seem kind of unfamiliar, which is no surprise because we haven't really worked with it in the past. But yeah, definitely check out the implementation for it from Insect to see like kind of what it does and make sure to override it accordingly so the queen ant just basically can't get removed. Okay, so oh yeah, one other thing that I sort of didn't mention about like what's different now about our ants game now that we added the queen ant, like now that the queen ant is sort of in the picture. Well, remember that the queen ant has like this ability to increase the damage or double the damage of certain ants, basically like buffing them. So yeah, we should definitely have a way to keep track of like whether a certain ant is currently buffed or not, right? If like its damage is currently doubled or not. So a big hint for that is let's add some attribute or variable to the ant class because again, since we're introducing the queen ant, like just any ant has like this whole new mechanic of being buffed or not, right? So it makes sense to add an attribute to the ant class. And I'll leave you with this question, like, should it be an instance or a class attribute? And I guess some guidance for that question is like, well, remember that every ant, like every ant instance, is sort of independent from each other with regards to like whether its damage is doubled or not. So hopefully that is a helpful hint. And yeah, the last thing I wanted to touch on is a possible implementation for this action method for our queen ant. So recall we have to override the action method because the action of a queen ant is similar to, but not exactly the same as the action for our scuba thrower. So yeah, here's like a basic roadmap of what you can do to implement this action method for the queen ant. So recall that a queen ant just it takes the behavior of the scuba ant or scuba thrower, right? It still like throws the projectile. Um, so definitely do a definitely like reference the action method from the scuba thrower class. Just sort of just take whatever the scuba thrower does and do it for the queen ant too. And so sort of the second part is to account for basically what's new about the queen ant, which is buffing behind ants. And here's like one way you can do it. There's other ways you can do it, but a pretty straightforward way is to just like loop over every place backwards, starting from the exit of where the queen currently is. So remember that you only want to buff ants that are behind the queen ant. So basically self.place.exit is like the first place right behind the queen ant. So like starting from there, can you like trace your way all the way back to basically account for every single place that comes before where the queen ant is. And if there's an ant there, do something. And remember that some ants can actually contain another ant, right? So we have like this container ant. And in that case, you actually want to buff or like double the damage of both the containing ant and the contained ant. So like a scenario is like maybe we have, a tank. I'm not going to attempt to draw it, but we have like a tank ant housing a like thrower ant. Then we want to double the damage of both the tank ant and the thrower ant that's inside of it. So we can have like another conditional for that. Yeah, again, this is definitely not the only way to do this, so don't feel restricted by this or be concerned if your solution is different, but this is one way to start. Okay, yes, I think that's all I want to say for this video, so thank you for watching and good luck.